I think we had the worst travel day we've ever had yesterday. What do you think?
Yeah, and it was surprising because we've been traveling for 5 years and really haven't had a lot of disruptions in our travel. But yesterday was just a doozy,
Yeah.
and it was unexpected.
So we're going to share today what happened, give scenarios, and allow you to kind of give feedback about what you would have done. But then we're going to talk about some of the rules of travel that we always engage on travel day so that when we have a bad travel day, we can turn lemons into lemonade. Hi, we're really glad you're here. We are Chris and Steve, a retired senior couple who sold our house, our car, and everything in them in Denver, Colorado in 2021, and we've been traveling the world full-time ever since with just our 2 carry-on suitcases. You may know us as Eat, Walk, Learn. We have a weekly newsletter that we publish on Substack, so please be sure to subscribe over there or come to our Facebook group where we post what we're doing almost every single day. On our website, you'll find over 200 locations to inspire you, and you can also read about our entire Nomad life journey in our book series on Amazon. So let's start with what we were doing yesterday. So yesterday, our plan was to fly from Portland, Maine to Rochester, New York, and we had a flight from Portland to Baltimore and then from Baltimore to Rochester. Now, first of all, it's only like a 6 or 7 hour drive. So why were we flying in the first place?
Well, we fly because we have free flights on Southwest Airlines. If you know anything about getting the companion pass, we could put a link up here on our video about how to get the Southwest companion pass. But we're flying free on Southwest. So yeah, I mean, even though these are two, I guess it's a 1-day drive, but why drive when you can fly?
Right. So why drive when you can fly? Exactly. And it doesn't cost us anything. It costs us $5 a leg to fly. So, and miles, but we get 2 for 1 mile. So really, whenever we have a chance to fly, we're going to fly. So to set up the day, we've got to fly from Portland to Baltimore to Rochester, pick up a car in Rochester. Now, of course, we had already paid for our flights with mileage, and we had prepaid for our car with Avis. They had an incredible deal. Rather than paying about $750 for a week rental, we're also dropping the car off in Brooklyn. We were able to get prepaid for the car, and it was about $500 to prepay for the car. So we had a sunk cost with the car being in Rochester on a prepaid, non-changeable, non-refundable reservation. So we're going to tell you about travel insurance coming up. So make sure you stay to the end because the travel insurance story is where this really gets interesting. So what happens? We wake up yesterday morning, get ready to go to the airport. Our flight is at 1 o'clock, so we have an easy breezy day. We get to the airport at 11 o'clock. Prior to that, Steve gets a notification. What's the notification saying?
The notification was that our flight from Baltimore to Rochester, the second leg of our trip, was canceled due to weather.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit of bad weather in the area, and I guess they were being preemptive and said, 6 hours or 7 hours before the flight, we're just going to cancel it.
Right. So with our flight canceled out of Baltimore into Rochester, we had some choices. We could stay in Maine for another couple days. We could get to Baltimore, stay in Baltimore until we could catch a flight from Baltimore to Rochester, or cancel the trip altogether.
Well, see, this was surprising for me because I thought, we'll just call up Southwest and they'll just rebook us and maybe we'll get in a couple hours later, but surely they could get us there the same day.
They could not. So we went, I spent over an hour with them. We called them on the phone. They said, we don't really know what's going on in the airport. You need to go to the airport to get this rebooked. We're like, okay, we're on the way anyway, so let's just go to the airport. When we get to the airport, we find out every flight, so this was on Tuesday, every combination of any way out of Portland to Rochester on Wednesday and on Thursday were sold out and overbooked. This is all because of this weather problem.
Yeah. And, in a lot of cases, we would be like, oh, what the hell? We'll just stay here for another couple of days and we'll just push everything back. But We were going to see our kids near Syracuse, and we only had 6 days with them. So to cut that 6 days in half, that was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
So,
since we only see them once a year, we don't want to cut that time in half if necessary.
Right.
So after talking to Southwest, they said the best thing they could do for us was get us out of Portland on Friday, and we would leave at 7 o'clock in the morning and not get to Rochester until 9 o'clock at night because of the routing. So we had bad options that turned worse and worse and worse. So while we're sitting in the airplane, rule number 1, don't panic. Rule number 2, don't blame anybody. So we're not blaming anybody. Weather's weather. You can blame weather Zeus, the weather god, but there's no chance blame. And number 3, just solve the problem. Actually, number 4 is make sure you have snacks. We had snacks. So anyway, so we're now standing in the airport trying to solve this problem. So if you know the geography of Northeast United States, points from A to B really aren't that far, and there's a lot of choices on how to get there. Plane, train, automobile, bus, all kinds of choices. So we said, all right, we're not going to panic. We got time. Our flight from Portland wasn't scheduled to leave until 1, and we had 2 hours before we had to be on the plane. So we started looking at options. The first option we looked at, of course, we looked at other airlines, and the flights, the day of flights for the airlines just were also ridiculous, and they were also having the same problems with weather. So we realized pretty quickly the airline was not going to be the solution. We looked at the train. The train was $181 per person and routed through Penn Station. So from Old Orchard Beach to Penn Station to Rochester. I think we could get off at Syracuse, actually. It was a reasonable routing, but it was at a 14-hour day and $181 per person. So we eliminated that. We didn't look at bus because I don't know why we didn't look at the bus.
Oh, I did. I did look at the bus. It would have been overnight. It would have been, it's like a 17-hour trip overnight, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
So we eliminated the bus. So then we thought, all right, well, either we're going to fly on Friday or we could drive. Now, here was the situation with the driving. We had a prepaid rental out of Rochester that we had to pick up at 6:30. Our original flight would have gotten us in at 6:30. We would have picked up the car out of Rochester. So I thought, all right, well, I'm just going to go to the Avis desk in Portland where we were and say, hey, you know what? Just move the reservation to Portland. We'll pick up the car in Portland. We'll still drop it in Brooklyn, but give us the same rate. We're only changing basically we're changing the reservation by a couple hours at a pickup point. She said, yeah, you're so funny, honey.
You're so funny.
We're not going to do that. We'll charge you $791 to pick up the car from here and drop it in Brooklyn, and we're not going to give you your money back for the prepaid reservation that you had in Rochester. Yikes. So now the problem becomes we got to get to Rochester by 6:30 in order to get the car, or elsewise, we're going to lose a $500 car reservation. So now the problem is a $500 car reservation problem, not a logistics problem of getting from Portland to Rochester.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we didn't want to spend 3 more days in Portland, because we would have been out the $500 for the rental car. We still would have had to pay another $500 or whatever dollars to rebook the rental car. So it would have been a really significant.
And what's really interesting about rental cars is usually you don't have to pay until the day you pick up the car, and a lot of times you'll get a rate that's a pickup rate. For whatever reason, this deal came through and we got this prepaid, because we usually don't prepay our car rentals because all car rentals are usually cancelable within 24 hours of pickup. This particular one, we were not within 24 hours. So it was all these scenarios, the travel gods fighting against you on car rentals. So anyway, so we're still in the Portland airport. It's now like noon, and we have to decide, are we going to take the 1 o'clock flight and maybe get to Baltimore and then roll the roulette in Baltimore? The weather's getting worse. Flights are canceling. We decide at the Avis desk, the Avis lady said, you know what, why don't you just get a one-day rental to Rochester, a one-way rental to Rochester? I said, great, how much does that cost? And she says $181. That's, again, another $181. I was like, with our experience in rentals, I knew that fare was high. It just didn't make sense that was high. I said, you know what, rule number 1, don't panic. I said, we're going to go sit over here. We're going to get on our phones. We're going to research car rentals and see what kind of immediate rate we could get. So I started at Priceline. I went to booking.com, and then I just looked at, in front of me, there's Budget, Avis, Hertz, whatever. I just went to their individual websites to see if they had a day of special. Hertz had a day of special. We could get a car out of Portland, drop it off in Rochester for $100. So now, of all of our options of getting to Rochester, it was $100 plus they had a if you know driving in New England, you got tolls everywhere. Rental cars notoriously will charge you really excessive fees to collect the fares on those tolls. What we liked about Hertz was you could get a toll thing and a transponder, and they had this special for $16.99, unlimited tolls for 24 hours. Well, Steve got on Google to see what the rates were. Google told us on the route, if we took the toll roads to Rochester, it was going to cost us about $22 in tolls. So we win by prepaying for the tolls. So we paid for that. We ended up having to buy a tank of gas, and the tank of gas was $60. So our total price to get from Portland to Rochester was about $80. Yeah, $181. Right around $181. So isn't that funny? Actually, that's kind of funny. That was $181 for the car, or for the bus, anyway. But we ended up getting in the car. So the drive was, and I said to Steve while we're in the airport, do we really want to drive in this weather? If the planes aren't going to fly, should we drive? What'd you say?
Yeah, well, I took a look at the weather, and I did this weird, calculation of how we're going to go under this cell, and we'll be able to dodge this rain cell. It wasn't bad. I mean, we were driving, and at one point there was a warning came up on our phone that said that there was a tornado watch in the area, but the weather really wasn't that bad. It would rain for about an hour, but it wasn't.
And we really kind of threaded the needle on the storms and managed to really just have a nice drive through the country, really, along the turnpikes. So anyway, it was about a 7-hour drive to get to Syracuse. We stayed the night with our kids, and then we continued the 2 hours to Rochester this morning to drop off the first car, which we dropped off this morning. We now are driving the second car back to Syracuse. So there's probably a little extra expense gas expense. There's no tolls there, extra gas expense there too. So anyway, the bottom line was we got from Portland to Syracuse for about $200 on a travel day that went sideways. Yeah. So what's really interesting was, when we're making the decision, when we're in the airport and we're making the decision on whether we're going to take that flight from Baltimore. So we're there at the airport at 11, the flight leaves at 1. It was already delayed, and it was delayed like 45 minutes. And so, whatever. And so
what I thought was, let's go from Portland, Maine to Baltimore, Washington, and we'll just deal with it there. We'll get to Baltimore, and they'll be able to book us on another flight, or maybe we have to spend the night in Baltimore, but at least it'll just be a short-term kind of delay.
Yeah.
And then we'll get on to Rochester.
And we'll have more options in Baltimore.
Right.
Maybe we can fly to Rochester, maybe fly to Albany or whatever, but we thought we'd have more choices when we got to Baltimore than out of Portland, Maine. Anyway, so ultimately we get the car. So while we're in the car, we're still getting the messages from Southwest about the flight from Portland. Delay. It ends up being delayed almost 5 hours out of Portland. And then what happened?
And then
We've never seen this happen.
We found out that the plane never even went to Baltimore, that they diverted it to Los Angeles.
So our flight actually went to LAX from Portland, Maine to get to Baltimore. So, and actually the next day, so today we actually did a lot of research about what really happened with the plane. And we got into to FlightAware and tracked the tail of the plane to see what happened. And what we found out was the original routing of our plane was from Portland to Baltimore to LAX, that flight number, the flight 323 or 3 something. Anyway, so they're going to drop people off, pick people up in Baltimore, then head to LAX. Well, ultimately, they just canceled the Baltimore part and flew directly to LAX. So those passengers who were in Portland trying to get to LAX only ended up getting at LAX just a couple hours late. Those people trying to get to Baltimore, I don't know how they're getting to Baltimore. They still may be sitting in Portland for all we know.
They're still in Portland.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting day and learning how flights work and delays work and weather. And of course, because it's weather, the airlines don't owe you a thing. they're not going to give you a meal. They're not going to give you a free flight. They're not going to put you on another airline. They're just going to work the weather and reroute you to the weather. Now, we will submit the rental car fees to our travel insurance. We have two ways that we're going to do this. One is because we booked the airplane on our Sapphire card, our Chase Sapphire card. We automatically get travel insurance with that. We will submit there. Actually, we'll read the fine print and figure out which is the better submission. We'll either submit there, or I have a USAA travel insured policy that covers travel interruption and travel cancellation. We definitely had interruption and cancellation, and both the Chase card and the USA travel insured will cover that. We don't know if they're going to cover the car. Basically, what they would do would be cover any expenses that you incurred from the flight. So if you had extra meals or an extra hotel, we'll see. We'll let you know how this plays out. But I really think we're going to be able to get a portion, at least the meals, because we had meals yesterday, at least the meals reimbursed under our travel insurance. We will let you know and how that goes.
Yeah.
But so the bottom line is on the worst travel day ever, and you know what? we've been traveling for 5.5 years, and I think the worst thing we've had is like a 2-hour delay someplace. Oh, we did have those visa problems in Malaysia. We'll put a link up for what happened when we didn't have the right visa in the right time in Malaysia. That was a nightmare. But everything else, you know, with God, how many millions of miles have we traveled? And this was the only time that we've had weather. We've had mechanical delays, but they were like an hour or whatever. We never had a situation where we couldn't get a flight the same day. This was a situation where their flight took 3 days for us to be able to exit.
Right.
So anyway, 3 rules of travel: don't panic, have snacks, no blaming, and then be flexible. Yeah. So Steve and I are enjoying a little road trip back and forth between Syracuse and Rochester. I'm driving some, he's driving some. What is nice, we got our rental from Portland to Rochester was with Hertz. We're Hertz Gold members. One of our credit cards gives me Hertz Gold status. I don't remember which. I think it's a Hyatt card. I am not sure. I'll put it in the description. It gives us gold status. That gold status allows the spouse to drive for free, which is great. I'm also Avis Premium or Avis Preferred. I'm not quite sure how I have Preferred, but with Preferred, the spouse also gets to drive for free. So we've been switching drivers off and on to make this trip a little bit easier on both of us. Yep. And that's a nice benefit with those two rental car providers, because otherwise we'd have to pay like $10 an extra person a day or something along that line.
So the good news is that we think we had travel insurance that was going to pay for a lot of the inconvenience and a lot of the things that we had to charges that we were unexpected.
Right. So as the day started to go sideways, and having had filed a travel insurance claim previously, I knew what they were going to be looking for. So I immediately started documenting all of the changes and delay, because the interesting thing is you have to prove to the insurance company that you had a delay, and you have to document all of the communication you get from the airline. If you don't have that, then they can't recreate what the problem was for the day. The challenge is that a lot of that communication is maybe in a text message, or maybe it's on the monitors at the airport, or maybe it comes, in an email, or it's on your boarding pass, but then your boarding pass changes. So as the changes were showing up in media in some way, I was taking screenshots all day long, because I did not know how the day was going to end, but I wanted to make sure things were documented, because I knew the travel agency the insurance company would want to know that information.
Well, so let's start out. So what kind of insurance is this?
Right. So previously, if you've watched some other videos, we had used our Chase Sapphire card and had filed a travel policy on our trip down to Argentina. We had had several flights cancel. The entire trip had been booked on the one card. In this particular situation, Steve had purchased the tickets, our Southwest tickets, and really the only way he purchased them was he paid for the sales tax on the tickets, because we had paid for the tickets with points. So the only money we were out on the tickets was like $5 per ticket per leg, and that was on the Sapphire card, or on his Sapphire card. But we had the car booked on my Sapphire card because I'm the insured driver on the Sapphire, or on our insurance. So the credit card and the driver and the insurance all have to be on the same name. So the whole trip was not on one card, which was a challenge when it comes to if you're going to file a credit card, travel insurance, trip cancellation, it has to all be on one card. Fortunately, I carry USAA travel insured policy for my medical coverage in the US. So I don't have any medical coverage in the US. So I pick up USAA's travel insured policy, which has travel medical on it, which would cover me in hit by the bus scenarios in the US. It is the only coverage I carry in the US. I have not had to file a claim on that, but that policy also has travel insurance on it. So in this situation, because we have multiple credit cards covering the various elements of the trip, I am going to file under the USAA travel insured. By the way, they only cost $89 a year for travel insurance, for multi-trip travel insurance. So check them out. Also, a lot of people think they can't get USA because they don't have military. Well, double check, because the way I got mine is it's my stepmother's father who was in the military that I was able to get insurance with. So it doesn't have to be you yourself as a military person or your spouse. It can be somewhere in your family. So double check. USA is great. We also have our non-owners insurance policy, auto policy with them, which cost us $25 a year to be able to cover rental cars and family members' cars while we're driving in the U.S. I have filed a claim on them last year for a busted mirror, and they paid 100% of the claim. So big win out of USAA. Anyway, so that's insurance.
Yeah, so we were able to document everything, and then what's like the process? Like, how do you actually file a claim?
Yeah, so I actually called USAA just to make sure. I wasn't sure what we could claim on this because the only thing that the trip entailed was a flight and a car rental. And the flight was canceled and the airline reimbursed us for the flight. I mean, technically reimbursed us because they gave us our miles back. But we did get but the flight that we got rebooked on, we were flying on a Tuesday, we got rebooked on a Friday. So we had more than an 11-hour delay. Because of that, I can go ahead and claim the car expenses, the gas, the tolls, and the meals that we had to spend and have to get us to our final destination. So we'll be able to claim about $200 or so to get reimbursed for the flight that canceled to get us to our final destination.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal for $89 a year.
Right.
When we think about travel days, what are things that you and I do before a travel day even starts to have us be prepared if a travel day goes sideways?
Yeah, so travel days can be very stressful, and the idea is to try to eliminate the stress and eliminate the things that can cause a lot of discomfort. So what we'll do, particularly on a travel day, is we'll make sure that we've got layers of clothing so we're not cold or we're not hot.
Right.
We'll have
bring extra change of clothes in the bag in case we get separated from our carry-ons. I mean, we generally do not check our carry-ons. Every once in a while we have to because we're overweight or there's not room in the cabin or whatever. Regardless of whether we're checking or not checking, we always have a change of clothes, all our medications, all of our ditty bag, toothbrush and stuff in our backpack so that if we somehow get detached from our stuff, we have comfort for a day or two, clean clothes and clean underwear and so on for a day or two, so until we get back together with our bag.
Yeah, and just simple things like having your phone charger handy, having your e-reader, whatever it is that gives you those sense of comfort, having those things readily available to you so that you're not like rummaging through your bag.
Did I say snacks?
Snacks are important.
Snacks. Snacks.
So
you should cut in snacks into the video.
Yeah. So, we talked about, being comfortable, and, one of those things is just not denying just kind of simple pleasures, like, so at the airport, you're hungry, get something to eat. That's the tuna sandwich might be $20. It doesn't matter. Just get it. Don't look at the price. You need it, and you need to keep yourself healthy and keep yourself feeling good.
Or if you can, pre-pack a lunch or pre-pack a bag of food or pre-pack carrot sticks or almonds or slices of cheese or whatever, so that you've got something to eat for when planes get delayed, or there's no meal on the plane or whatever, or you don't want to spend $20 for an overpriced tuna sandwich in the airport. At least you'll have some snacks with you.
Yeah. So I want to bring up one of the rules that we have on travel day, and that is that there's no blame.
No blame.
No blame is allowed. So there are mistakes. Mistakes get made. Things go wrong. In this particular case, it was a weather issue, so it's kind of hard to put the blame on somebody for a weather issue.
But people will blame the flight or the customer service agent.
Yeah.
I can't believe you can't get me to New York. Why can't you put me on another plane?
Well,
nobody's flying, dude. It's the weather. You can't do anything about the weather, so don't blame the people that are trying to help you. Just be nice.
Honestly, I was a little bit stressed out.
You were.
We were supposed to be. We were flying on Tuesday morning, and they were rebooking us for Friday afternoon. And it was like, wait a second, what happened between Tuesday and Friday that you can't get us to New York? But that was the best that they could do at the time, and so we just had to say, okay, that's the best you're doing, and let's deal with it, and then we'll go from there. We'll make decisions from that point.
I think though that obviously the object on travel day is to not have any mistakes or errors or things to let blaming scenarios happen. One of the things that we see all the time, we even do it, we've gotten much better at it, but on our Facebook group, once a week we post, how did you screw up this week? And people tell their stories about how they screwed up. Every single week, someone is always telling this particular story, and it happens all the time. And that is, they booked the wrong date. They show up on Tuesday, the flight was Wednesday. They show up on Wednesday, the flight was Monday. Or they get the date and month switched. Or they get, they think March 9th in the US is actually September 3rd in Europe because of the way they do dates. Or they go at 8 a.m. thinking it's 8 a.m., but it's actually 8 p.m. So people get their dates and times screwed up all the time. So the way that we do two things to try to overcome this. The first is it's usually me that's booking tickets. Usually, it's not always, but often with Steve and me, it's me that's booking tickets. So before I book it, I say to Steve, double check me. And when he double checks me, he does two things. He goes two places. He goes to our spreadsheet that tracks all of our travel. He also goes to our calendar, our Google Calendar, to double check that the date that the spreadsheet says is the right date on the calendar, and that we don't have anything planned, or that the plan is going to fit in the calendar or the spreadsheet. So it's a double indemnity, double confirmation within our systems, to make sure the systems are right, and then between us to make sure it's right, so that we don't get the wrong tickets on the wrong day, double booking the same day, not booking someday or whatever. Because that is like every single week in our Facebook group, someone is saying how they screwed up on that particular issue. But we're not the experts here. You guys are. Tell us what your stories are. Tell us where your bad travel day, how you repaired, how you fixed it, what mistake you guys always do, and how you try not to do that again. We want to hear from you too, because we're talking about this being our worst travel day. You know what? In the scheme of bad travel days, this was nothing. Our flights got canceled. 8 hours later, we still showed up in the same location. Got there in a different way, but we still got there. Other people have much worse stories. We want to hear yours.
Sure.
How'd you recover? Let us know.